Cops cuffed a black woman at the base. Moments later, the general himself came to apologize. "Put your hands behind your back, now," barked the MP with the crew cut, already reaching for the cuffs. A crowd had started to gather at the front gate of Fort Wainwright, most of them in uniform, all of them staring. Dr. Maya Whitfield, a black woman in her mid-30s wearing a grey suit and low heels, stood tall and calm, even as the two military police officers closed in on her. "I'm here by official appointment." "You're making a mistake," Maya said, her voice clear but firm, her eyes never leaving the taller of the two MPs. "Ma'am, we've already asked you 3 times to identify yourself and leave the premises," the shorter MP added, one hand on his taser. "You failed to provide valid credentials." "You're trespassing on a secure military installation." "My credentials were on your scanner 5 minutes ago," Maya said, jaw tightening. "If your system says otherwise, maybe check again before you slap handcuffs on the wrong person." "She's bluffing," the tall MP muttered, already clicking one cuff over her left wrist. That's when everything stopped. Not figuratively, literally. A black SUV screeched to a halt just inside the base fence. A 2-star general stepped out, broad-shouldered, sharply dressed in a tan uniform with polished boots that clicked with purpose. General William Stroud. "Uncuff her!" "Immediately!" he ordered, his voice a commanding boom across the open air. The MPs froze. "You heard me!" Stroud barked.
"That woman is Dr. Maya Whitfield. She's the civilian lead for the Cyber Defense Initiative at the Pentagon, and she's here on my request." The taller MP's hand trembled as he quickly unlocked the cuff from Maya's wrist. The other looked like he wanted to disappear into his boots. Maya straightened her suit jacket. "Took you long enough," she said coolly to the general. Stroud gave a weary sigh. "Let's talk inside. You and I have some catching up to do." An hour earlier, Maya had landed in Fairbanks on a red-eye flight from DC, her body aching from jet lag, her mind razor-sharp. She had a mission here, one that not even the Secretary of Defense knew about in full detail. Fort Wainwright had reported 2 suspicious data leaks over the last 3 months, both scrubbed quietly, but raising enough flags for Maya to be sent in under the radar. She was not just a brilliant cybersecurity expert. She was the best, and this base had no idea who they were dealing with. When she arrived at the gate, she handed over her credentials, as she'd done dozens of times at other installations. But this time, the scanner beeped red. "System error," she said, watching the MP squint at the screen. The MP narrowed his eyes. "Fake badge? Or maybe you're here trying to get inside under someone else's name." Maya didn't flinch. "Run it again." The MP leaned in. "I don't need to. I've seen enough people trying to sneak into bases pretending to be someone they're not." Behind her, another MP was already calling something into his walkie-talkie. Maya's fingers tightened on her satchel. She could have said everything right then, pulled rank, mentioned the classified clearance level she held, even called the general herself. But she wanted to see what they'd do, how far they'd go. She didn't have to wait long. As they moved to detain her, one of the younger soldiers watching nearby whispered to his buddy, "Ain't that profiling?" The other shrugged. "Looks like it to me." But neither said anything louder. Back in the general's office, Maya sat across from Stroud, sipping lukewarm coffee she barely touched. "You should have warned them I was coming," she said. "I did," he replied, rubbing his temple. "But I also requested your arrival stay low-key. I didn't expect their system to glitch, or their attitude to do the rest." "They didn't just glitch," Maya shot back. "They saw a black woman in a suit with too much confidence, and they assumed I was a threat." "Not an expert." Stroud leaned back in his chair. "You've changed, Maya." "No," she said. "I've just run out of patience.
He paused, then asked quietly, "Did you let that play out on purpose?" Maya nodded. "I need to see how this base operates under pressure, and right now, it's failing." Stroud sighed. "We need your help." "And not just with the leak. There's something else." Maya's eyes narrowed. "What?" "The code fragment we found last month. It matches a string from a compromised Pentagon subroutine. Someone's running a shadow operation from within this base, and you just got their attention." She stood, suddenly alert. "You brought me here knowing I'd be watched." "I brought you here because you're the only one who can dig through this and survive the fallout," he said. "But after today, you may want to tread even more carefully. That arrest? That wasn't just ignorance." "Someone might have orchestrated it." Maya's gaze turned cold. "Then I guess I'm exactly where I need to be." Outside, the MPs who cuffed her were being reamed by their superior. But Maya didn't notice. Her mind was already moving, plotting the next step, piecing together what the data breach meant. This base was more than compromised, and someone here didn't just underestimate her. They feared her, which meant, for the first time in a long time, she was getting close. By the time Maya stepped into her temporary quarters on base, the sun had dipped behind the Alaska Range, casting long shadows across the silent barracks. She closed the door behind her, dropped her satchel on the bed, and exhaled slowly. The room was sparse, a military standard with olive-drab sheets and a steel desk bolted to the floor. But for Maya, it was enough. She didn't come here for comfort. She booted up her encrypted laptop and inserted a tiny black drive from her blazer's inner pocket. On screen, a flurry of code bloomed. She typed fast, almost rhythmically, bypassing firewalls, skimming classified logs. Her eyes flicked across dates and IP logs until something caught her attention. A data packet routed through a shadow server in Virginia had been accessed 4 days ago on a secure Fort Wainwright channel. It didn't just match the Pentagon breach, it mirrored it. Someone inside this base had tapped into federal-level systems using credentials buried under 6 layers of obfuscation. And the call log matched one name, Lieutenant Cole. Nathan Briggs. Maya leaned back, frowning. Briggs wasn't on her suspect list. Not originally, but something about the access pattern was odd, almost too clean. Like someone was trying to frame him. Before she could dig deeper, her phone buzzed, unknown number. She let it ring twice, then answered. "You shouldn't have come," a man's voice said quietly. "No ID, scrambled line. Turn around and go back to DC. You're in over your head this time." Maya's fingers tightened around the phone. "Who is this?" But the line went dead. She stared at the screen, breathing slowly. Her heart rate only slightly elevated. She'd been threatened before. But this wasn't a warning. It was a test, and she wasn't planning on failing it. The next morning, Maya arrived at the command building, calm and composed. Inside, General Stroud was already briefing a small group of officers. When she entered, the room went silent. Stroud nodded toward her. "This is Dr. Maya Whitfield. She has full access. Treat her like you'd treat me." A few glances shifted uncomfortably. Maya scanned the faces, noting who avoided her eyes. One stood out. A young intelligence officer, probably mid-30s, dark hair buzzed short, name tag reading Briggs. Interesting. After the meeting, she caught up with Stroud. "Lit. Curly Briggs, he's been here how long?" 4 years, Stroud said, pulling on his gloves. "Decorated, reliable, one of the best intel officers on base." "Why?" "Because someone used his credentials in the Pentagon breach. Either he's the leak, or someone wants us to think he is." Stroud paused mid-motion.
You think he's being set up? I think I need to talk to him.
They met in the operations room later that afternoon. Briggs was stiff, respectful. Ma'am, I heard what happened at the gate. I want to personally apologize for how you were treated.
I'm not here for apologies, Maya said.
I'm here for answers. He hesitated. About the breach. Yes. And the fact your clearance was used to access classified files off-site last week. Files only a handful of people knew even existed. Briggs' eyes widened slightly, but not in guilt, more in disbelief. I never made that access. I haven't left this base in 2 weeks. And I haven't used that channel in over a month. Maya studied him closely. What if someone on your team cloned your credentials? Could that happen without your knowledge? He nodded slowly. If they had physical access to my login card and biometric sample, yes, but that would mean someone on this base deliberately tampered with secure systems. Exactly. She left the meeting with a pit in her stomach. Briggs didn't read as guilty. He read as scared, and scared meant someone else was pulling the strings. That night, Maya returned to her quarters and reran the internal logs. She isolated each access point from the week of the breach. One thing stood out. Every login under Briggs's credentials happened during his scheduled sleep hours, when his access card was supposedly locked away. She followed the trail to the surveillance room. That same night, she made her way down the dark corridor toward the room marked Security Hub. A bored-looking tech sergeant opened the door. I need to see camera footage from the barracks. Specifically, the corridor outside Lieutenant Colonel Briggs's quarters. Week of the 12th. That's off protocol, ma'am. Maya pulled a folded document from her jacket and placed it on the desk. And this is a presidential directive authorizing full oversight access under the Department of Defense. Want to play policy roulette? Or pull the files? He stared at her, then muttered under his breath and turned to the monitor. What they saw chilled them both. At 2:11 a.m. 3 nights ago, a man in uniform, face obscured by a hoodie and cap, entered Briggs's quarters with a second access card. 8 minutes later, he exited, carrying a palm-sized device wrapped in cloth. The sergeant paled. That's an S-TAC signal cloner, he said. Military grade. Not standard issue. Maya's expression didn't change. Run facial recognition. Now. 5 minutes later, the result popped on screen. Sergeant Kyle Dornan, Communications Team. Assigned under General Stroud. Maya's blood ran cold. She stood up slowly. Back up that file, twice. One copy to me. The other. Send it to the Pentagon, level 9 encryption. The sergeant looked panicked. If Stroud finds out, he won't. Not yet. As Maya walked back through the dimly lit hallway, her mind raced. This wasn't just a rogue soldier exploiting a hole in security. This was inside, deep inside. And if Stroud's office had anything to do with it, then everything she thought she knew about this assignment was about to be flipped upside down. She had come to uncover a breach, but now it looked like she'd just uncovered a conspiracy. One that stretched far higher than a lieutenant's stolen credentials. One that someone didn't want her to survive long enough to expose. Maya barely slept. The footage of Sergeant Kyle Dornan entering Briggs's quarters haunted her every time she closed her eyes. And the fact that Dornan worked directly under General Stroud wasn't a coincidence. It was a signal, one she couldn't ignore. At 6:45 a.m., she stood quietly at the back of the base's mess hall, her coffee cooling in her hand as she watched Stroud laughing with 2 other officers over breakfast. His manner was relaxed, too relaxed. Maya had seen that kind of calm before. It wasn't ignorance. It was confidence. The kind that comes when you think no one can touch you. She made a decision. She'd need help from outside this chain of command. She couldn't trust anyone on base. After finishing her coffee, she returned to her room and made a secure call from her laptop. It connected to an encrypted Pentagon line. On the other end, a deep voice answered.
Colonel Vasquez. It's Whitfield. I need support. Quiet and fast. What's your status? I have confirmed evidence of an internal breach at Fort Wainwright.
It's larger than expected, possibly involving a ranking officer. There was silence, then a low whistle. How clean is your intel? Direct video surveillance. I'll upload the files through Tier 9. I want eyes on it by noon. Vasquez didn't hesitate. Done. Sending you a contact. Do not trust base communications. I'll dispatch a shadow team if needed. When the line cut, Maya leaned back, breathing slowly. She was in deeper than she planned, but she wasn't backing out. Later that morning, Maya confronted Dornan outside the comms facility. "Sergeant," she called. He turned, clearly startled to see her. "Yes, ma'am?" "I'd like to ask you a few questions about your shift on the night of the 12th. His expression twitched. "I don't recall anything unusual." "Funny," she said, stepping closer. "Because base logs show your clearance was used to access a restricted surveillance node at 2:11 a.m. You also visited Luti." "Colonel Briggs's quarters without authorization." Dornan blinked, lips parting slightly. "That's not possible. I wasn't even near that sector." "Then it's someone wearing your uniform, your gait, and using your face." She didn't smile. "Care to explain?" "I want a lawyer," he said instantly, backing away. "You'll get one, but not before I notify General Stroud." She turned and walked straight into Stroud's office. He was standing at his desk, reading something on his tablet. "You and I need to talk," she said, her voice low and direct. He looked up. "Everything all right, Doctor?" "No, it's not." "One of your men broke into Lieutenant Colonel Briggs's quarters using a cloned access card. He extracted biometric data and used it to breach Pentagon-level security. I have the footage. I just spoke to Dornan." Stroud narrowed his eyes. "This is a serious accusation, and it's backed by irrefutable evidence. I expect you to suspend him immediately pending investigation." Stroud put the tablet down. "Of course." "I'll have him brought in, and I want to see that footage myself." Maya nodded, watching him carefully. "I'll forward it once Pentagon confirms its receipt." "I'm following protocol." As she turned to leave, Stroud called out, "Be careful who you trust, Dr. Whitfield. There are eyes everywhere on this base." It wasn't a threat. It was a warning. Back at her quarters, Maya found her room had been disturbed, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but her laptop was unplugged, her drawer left slightly ajar. Someone had been inside. She swept the room for bugs and found two, one embedded beneath the desk, another behind the outlet near her bed. She crushed both and flushed the pieces. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. "You have no idea what you've stepped into," the voice whispered. "People like you don't walk away from this." This time Maya didn't hang up. "You've been watching me? Fine. Then watch this," she said. "I'm not going anywhere." She cut the call and hit record on her laptop. Then she looked straight into the camera and began logging every step of her investigation. Names, locations, timestamps. She emailed the video log to 3 separate secure recipients. If anything happened to her, it would go public. The next morning, Dornan was nowhere to be found. Vanished. His room had been wiped clean, all electronics gone. Clothes gone. And his name was suddenly missing from the base roster. When Maya confronted Stroud, he didn't blink. "Looks like the sergeant took off. That doesn't exactly help his innocence. He disappeared right after you said you'd detain him." Stroud folded his arms. You're implying I helped him escape. I'm implying your office has leaks the size of Alaska. Stroud stepped closer, his voice dropping. Watch your tone. You may be here under federal directive, but you're still a guest on my base. Maya met his gaze head-on. Then maybe it's time someone told the Pentagon how their hospitality is being abused. As she left, Stroud's aide, a young black woman named Lute. Harper slipped a folded note into Maya's palm without saying a word. Back in her room, Maya opened it. He's not working alone. Watch your 6. Meet me at Building 14 after lights out. Come alone. The twists were coming faster now, but Maya wasn't afraid. She was finally getting close to the truth. And someone inside the base wanted her to succeed, quietly. She just hoped she'd survive long enough to find out why. Maya stood in the shadows outside Building 14, her breath fogging in the crisp Alaskan night air. Every creak, every gust of wind brushing the side of the structure set her nerves on edge. She checked her watch. 23:47. Whoever Lieutenant Harper was, she was running out of time to prove she wasn't part of the trap. Footsteps crunched behind her. Maya whirled around, hand instinctively slipping inside her jacket toward the pepper spray she'd tucked earlier. But it was Harper. Alone. Her uniform jacket unzipped, face tight with urgency. "Come on," Harper whispered. "We don't have long." Inside the building, they navigated a narrow staircase that led to a storage mezzanine above a now unused radar room. Harper shut the door behind them, bolting it. Maya caught her breath, still scanning every angle. Harper sat on a crate and began talking fast. "You're not crazy, and you're not the first." "We've had 2 whistleblowers go missing in the last 8 months. No trace. Both were working on data anomalies linked to a logistics route through this base." Maya's heart thumped hard. "Dr. Raymond Eckhart and Lieutenant Maria Choi." Harper's eyes widened. "You know about them?" "I read their last logs. Redacted, but not enough." Harper nodded. "They got close to something." "A ghost unit. Doesn't show up in base rosters, but supplies go missing like clockwork. They move shipments during power outages or drills. I intercepted one of their manifests once. It had Pentagon-level clearance codes, but those codes didn't check out." Maya's mind raced. "You still have it?" Harper pulled out a USB drive from her boot. "Encrypted. Been holding onto it in case I needed leverage to stay alive." Maya took it gently, almost reverently. "You don't know how important this is." "I do?" "That's why I didn't go to Stroud. He's either compromised or leading it." "What about Dornan?" Harper leaned closer. "Dornan's not AWOL." "I saw him yesterday. He was wearing civilian gear, boarding a military transport under a different name. I checked the manifest." "He's listed as consultant assigned to an off-grid fob in Nevada." "Off-grid," Maya repeated, eyes narrowing. "That's where they hide assets, or dump threats." They were both quiet a moment. Then Maya asked, "Why trust me?" "Because the day you were cuffed in front of the operations wing and didn't scream, didn't panic, didn't show fear, that's when I knew you weren't just here to write reports." Maya's voice softened. "I didn't expect help." Harper gave a tight smile. "Neither did I." Suddenly they heard movement below. A door opened. Voices, radios crackled. Harper grabbed Maya's wrist and whispered, "Storage hatch! Behind the crates! Hurry!" They slipped through just as flashlights swept the upper room. 2 MPs stormed in, one barking orders. "No sign of them, sir! Upper level clear!" Maya and Harper crouched silently below, breathing shallow, waiting until the sound of boots retreated and the building fell silent again. After 10 minutes, they climbed out. Harper wiped her brow with the back of her hand. "They're not just watching you now. You being here's rattled them. It means someone up high gave you access. That scares them. Maya nodded. Good. Let's make it worse. Back in her room, Maya plugged in the USB and began decrypting. Layer by layer, it peeled back into a shipping manifest that made her blood run cold. The logistics route included restricted biotech samples, encrypted under vague titles like Level 3 neuroinhibitor and Conditioning Serum, human grade. Destinations, undisclosed medical sites. Authorization, stamped with Stroud's personal clearance. She stared at the screen. There it was. Not just data theft, not just corruption. Human testing. Her phone buzzed again, no number. This time she answered on speaker, recording everything. You were warned, the voice hissed. Turn in that drive and leave this base by dawn. If you don't, you won't leave at all. Maya spoke clearly. You're not scaring me. You're exposing yourself. The voice chuckled, low and cruel. It's not about scaring you. It's about what happens next. People around you disappear. Accidents. You'll start to question what's real. Click. Maya didn't move. Didn't breathe. Then she picked up the phone and dialed. Vasquez here, came the voice on the other end. I've got confirmation. They're using Fort Wainwright as a shell base. Unauthorized operations, illegal materials. I'm requesting immediate extraction for Lieutenant Harper and a Level 1 security breach audit. Vasquez went silent, then said, You've just escalated this to a national threat protocol. Then you better start treating it like one. Maya didn't sleep that night. Neither did Harper. They knew the base wouldn't wait till morning. Sure enough, at 4:17 a.m., the alarm screamed. Power went out. A single chopper began descending over the north perimeter, unmarked, unauthorized, and Maya knew the storm she'd stirred was about to hit full force. But for the first time, she wasn't alone, and she wasn't afraid. Maya's boots hit the frozen tarmac with a crunch as she sprinted toward the hangar, the rotor wash from the descending chopper throwing her hair in all directions. The air was thick with static tension, not from the cold, but from the sense that this wasn't just a base alert, it was a purge. Inside the hangar, floodlights snapped on. Harper was already there, crouched behind a Humvee, clutching her sidearm. Her eyes locked on Maya, and she gave a short nod. They're not playing around, Harper said, voice tight. Whoever's on that bird, it's not backup. Maya ducked beside her, gripping the encrypted drive tighter in her pocket. They're here to clean house. We've got minutes, maybe less. Suddenly, the hangar doors rumbled open. 2 black SUVs pulled in fast, headlights cutting through the space. A man stepped out. He was tall, square-shouldered, mid-50s, with a crisp black coat bearing a Department of Defense insignia. Behind him, 4 men in tactical gear fanned out. Identify yourselves, he shouted. Maya stood slowly, her stance calm but commanding. Lieutenant Maya Preston, U.S. Army Intelligence Command. And you are? The man raised a brow. Special Agent Caleb Dwyer. Internal Tactical Affairs. Maya narrowed her eyes. There's no such division. Dwyer smiled faintly. Exactly. She didn't lower her voice. You're here to erase evidence, people, me. Dwyer's tone remained civil, almost friendly. Lieutenant, your actions have triggered an unauthorized breach at a highly sensitive facility. You've accessed material far outside your clearance. For your safety, you'll be placed in protective custody. Immediately. Protective custody, Maya echoed. Is that what you called it when Dr. Eckhart disappeared? Or when Maria Choi's car exploded with her child inside? That did it. Harper stiffened beside her, and even Dwyer flinched, his jaw tensing. I'm not afraid of you, Maya said. Because I already sent the files. Dwyer's smirk dropped. That's right, Maya continued. Encrypted. Dead man's switch. You touch either of us, and in 5 minutes the Pentagon will receive a copy, along with every major media outlet. Silence fell. One of the tactical men lowered his weapon a fraction, unsure now. Dwyer didn't blink. You've made yourself a very inconvenient problem. Maya stepped forward. Good, then maybe I'm doing something right. Suddenly, Harper's radio crackled. A voice. Incoming chopper from HQ. Confirmed. General Talbot on board. Maya blinked. Talbot? That's the base commander from Joint Arctic Command. Harper looked stunned. He's 4 stars. If he's coming here... The doors opened again. A second chopper touched down outside. Snow and grit swirled, and then, through the haze, General Marcus Talbot stepped out. He wasn't in ceremonial dress. He was in battle fatigues, purpose in every step, no aides. Just him. He strode into the hangar like he owned the sky, and silence followed him. Everyone saluted. Maya didn't move. Talbot walked right up to her, towering a full head above. Lieutenant Preston, he said, voice deep and sharp. You are one hell of a storm. Maya held his gaze. Sir, I believe you know why I'm here. Talbot nodded slowly. Then, without turning, he said, Agent Dwyer, you and your team are to stand down. Immediately. Dwyer's jaw tightened. With respect, General, this is above your clearance. Talbot finally turned to him. Son, I have 4 stars on my shoulder and a direct line to the Joint Chiefs. If I say this ends, it ends. Dwyer hesitated. His men shifted, unsure. Talbot pulled a folder from his coat. I've already reviewed the files she sent, including the biometric data from the conditioning trials. This operation is terminated. Dwyer glanced at Maya, hate flashing behind his eyes. But he gave a subtle nod, signaling his team to fall back. Maya exhaled, only now realizing how tightly she'd been wound. Talbot stepped closer to her again, his voice low but grave. You just exposed something that's been festering for years. You have no idea how deep it goes. I want to, Maya replied, and I want to stop it. He studied her a moment longer. Then, quietly, you just made a lot of powerful enemies, but you also made the right kind of allies. Before she could reply, Talbot turned to Harper. You're with her? Harper straightened. Yes, sir. Good, both of you. On the next flight to DC. I want a full debrief on my desk before sunrise. Then he looked at Maya one last time. Stay sharp, Lieutenant. This wasn't a win. It was an opening. Maya nodded, already feeling the adrenaline fading, replaced by something colder, steadier. Resolve. Later that night, as the base returned to an eerie stillness, Maya stood at her window, watching the snow drift down like ash. They had tried to bury the truth, but it was breaking through now, like cracks in ice under pressure. And this time, she wasn't backing down. The flight to DC was silent. Maya sat near the window, her eyes fixed on the clouds below, arms folded tightly across her chest. Harper sat beside her, reviewing the documents they'd managed to extract. But neither woman said much. There was too much at stake. Too much unknown. And for the first time, Maya realized that even though the general had backed them up, they were still flying into the lion's den. As the jet touched down at Joint Base Andrews, 2 black SUVs awaited them at the tarmac. This time, no guns were drawn. No cuffs. Just a man in a navy suit and wire-rimmed glasses waiting patiently beside the vehicles. He introduced himself as Deputy Director Nolan Briggs, CIA liaison to the Joint Intelligence Task Force. "I've read the report," he said as the SUV pulled away.
"General Talbot called me personally. Told me you uncovered something that doesn't belong in any file, much less in our military." Maya didn't blink. "He's right."
"What we found goes beyond rogue ops. It's systemic, and whoever's behind it is still in the shadows." Briggs nodded but didn't respond right away. Finally, he said, "We're going to the Pentagon, not just to debrief. There's a closed-door committee waiting to hear from you directly." Harper raised an eyebrow. "That's not protocol." Briggs gave a small, bitter laugh. "Nothing about this is protocol anymore." They were escorted into a nondescript conference room beneath the Pentagon. Inside, the air was cold and still. 5 individuals sat behind a long steel table, 3 military, 2 civilian. One of them, a woman with silver hair and a Harvard pin on her lapel, leaned forward as Maya entered. "You're Lieutenant Maya Preston?" she asked, though her tone suggested she already knew. "Yes, ma'am." "Then let's begin." For the next hour, Maya laid out everything. The experimental neuromodulation trials on enlisted personnel, the falsified death records, the off-book funding lines traced to shell corporations, and most damning of all, the biometric tracking data showing active manipulation of human behavior for warfare adaptation. They didn't interrupt, didn't even look shocked. When Maya finally paused, the silver-haired woman exchanged a glance with a man seated beside her. "We've known about portions of this," the man finally admitted, "but no one's brought forward this level of proof." "So why hasn't anyone stopped it?" Harper asked, her voice sharp. "How deep does it go?" There was a beat of silence before the woman answered. "Deep enough that you're in danger now, even here." Before they could respond, the door burst open. 2 military police officers entered, breathless. "Ma'am, we've got a breach. Communications down. Base lockdown initiated." "Someone's trying to access the secure servers." Briggs cursed under his breath. Maya was already moving. In the chaos, Maya turned to the panel. "You need to protect the data. If they're hitting the Pentagon, they're desperate." But the silver-haired woman shook her head. "The safest place right now is with you." She reached under the table, pulling out a black carbon fiber case and slid it toward Maya. "What is this?" Maya asked. "A second archive," the woman said. "Backed up 3 days ago. Air-gapped. Use it if this all goes to hell." Maya hesitated. "Why would you trust me?" The woman's eyes softened slightly. "Because unlike the others who came before you, you didn't sell it. You risked everything." Suddenly, an explosion rocked the wall behind them. Lights flickered. The MPs drew their weapons. Through the cracks in the drywall, shouting could be heard, men yelling, boots pounding. Harper grabbed Maya's arm. "We're not safe here." Briggs shoved open a side door. "There's a secure evac route through sub-level C." They sprinted down the hallway as klaxons wailed and fire suppression systems hissed from overhead vents. Through the red haze of emergency lights, Maya clutched the archive case tightly against her chest. It was all unraveling. And then, twist. As they turned the corner to sub-level C, they came face to face with a figure Maya hadn't seen in years. Colonel Richard Huxley, her former commanding officer. She froze. He smiled. "You always did have a hero complex." "Huxley?" Maya said, stunned. "You're supposed to be retired." "Retired?" He laughed. "That's what they let you believe. You think any of this happens without people like me guiding it?" He gestured to the chaos around them. "You found a few files." "A few names. But the real engine, that's embedded into every system we run." "You think it ends with OneDrive?" Harper raised her gun. "Move!" But Huxley didn't flinch. "You won't shoot me," he said calmly. "Because the moment you do, 10 more will step in behind me. You're not fighting men. You're fighting legacy. Maya stepped forward. Then we burn it down. She reached into her coat and hit a small transmitter clipped to her comms. Signal confirmed. A voice crackled in her earpiece. Archive upload initiated. Remote site secured. Huxley's smile faded. Maya didn't stop. I made copies. Distributed. Trusted people outside your web. You can destroy me, but you can't destroy what's already out there. Huxley lunged, but Briggs tackled him to the ground, slamming the older man against the concrete with a grunt. Sirens blared louder. Go! Briggs shouted. I'll clean this up! Maya didn't wait. She and Harper raced for the emergency exit. As the heavy doors slammed shut behind them, Maya looked back one last time, her heart thundering. They had made it out. But this war was far from over. She held the archive tighter. This wasn't just about evidence anymore. It was about the future, and she was ready to fight for it. The safe house was buried deep in the Shenandoah woods, a long-forgotten CIA fallback bunker reinforced during the Cold War. The lights flickered inconsistently, and the air smelled like dust and rusted steel. But for now, it was the only place they could hide without being traced. Maya paced the narrow room, frustration boiling beneath the surface. Across the table, Harper reassembled her SIG, her hands shaking for the first time in days. And in the corner, Briggs was working feverishly on a satellite rig, attempting to reconnect with the outside world. They'd escaped the Pentagon, but they hadn't escaped the hunt. The files were out there now, yes, but they still didn't know who was pulling the strings at the top. Whoever it was had not only corrupted key military branches, but also controlled internal surveillance, black site access, and media suppression. They're not just powerful, Maya muttered. They're organized, quiet, patient. And you cracked their rhythm, Briggs said, not looking up. They're scrambling. That's why they came for you so fast. No, Harper said. That's not why. They came because they were afraid she'd find the last piece. Briggs paused. The handler. Maya looked up. The one who greenlit the conditioning program. The one no one has a face for. Harper pulled out a photo from her pocket. Grainy, infrared. A blurred figure entering an underground vault at Fort Hamilton. No name, no clearance trail, but the timestamp was from just 3 days ago. He's still active, Harper said, and he knows we're getting close. There was a knock. One knock. Then two. The coded rhythm. Maya raised her weapon. Harper edged toward the door. It opened slowly. And standing there, dressed in civilian clothes with a deep scar running from his jaw to his collarbone, was someone Maya hadn't seen since Kandahar. Jace? She breathed. Jace Waller, ex-Special Recon, presumed KIA after a failed extraction 3 years ago. Maya had seen his name on the casualty list herself, but here he was, alive. You're supposed to be dead, she said. He gave her a crooked smile. I was, until I got recruited. Harper narrowed her eyes. By who? Jace stepped inside. By the same people you're trying to expose. Only difference is, I got out. Why now? Maya asked. Because they just activated Protocol Echo, he said, and that means they're cleaning house. Anyone who ever knew anything, even if they're out, even if they stayed silent, they're all targets now. Maya frowned. And what's Protocol Echo? Jace glanced at Briggs, then back at Maya. It's not just a kill order, it's a full erasure. Data wipes, fake suicide reports, burned fingerprints. I watched them do it to a general's daughter because she asked the wrong question. Briggs paled. So it's begun. Jace reached into his coat and dropped a drive onto the table. That's everything I took before I ran. names, meeting coordinates, supply routes. And a location, deep in Alaska, remote, government exempt, no satellites overhead. Maya grabbed the drive. What's there? The hub, Jace said. It's where they process everything. Neural maps, subject files, real-time behavioral mods.
It's where they built the tech. Briggs's voice was hushed. And if we take it offline? We cut the snake at the head, Maya finished. They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the decision pressing down like gravity. Then Harper spoke. So what's the plan? Maya straightened. We go there. Tonight. Briggs blinked. That's suicide. We don't know how many are guarding it. That's why we don't go in through the front door. She looked at Jace. You got us in once before. Can you do it again? He nodded. There's a geothermal vent near the East Ridge. I can get us within 200 meters undetected, but once we're in, Maya cut him off. We don't stop until it's burned to the ground. Briggs rubbed his temples. If you pull this off, you'll either be dead or infamous. Maybe both, Maya said. But if we don't do this, no one else will. They moved fast. Within the hour, they were on an unregistered transport out of Virginia, flying low and cold across state lines. No flight plans, no beacon, just 3 people and 1 mission. As the jet approached the Alaskan airspace, the temperature dropped, and so did the tension. Harper leaned in. You think they know we're coming? They always know, Maya said. But they don't know what we're willing to lose. At dawn, they parachuted in, silent, sharp. Cold air slicing their skin like knives. The snow was waist deep, but Jace guided them with military precision through the forest, avoiding drones and sensors embedded in the trees. Finally, they reached the ridge. And there it was, a structure built into the mountain, steel, concrete, camouflaged panels absorbing light. A fortress. Maya looked through binoculars. There were only 4 visible guards. Too quiet, she muttered. Jace pointed toward a vent just above the ravine. That's our way in. They moved. As they crept through the narrow access tunnel, Maya's heart pounded. The cold bit at her fingers, but her grip never loosened. They emerged inside a maintenance chamber. And then, gunfire. A sudden burst from down the corridor. Harper ducked behind a crate. Jace fired 2 rounds into the dark, then silence. They rushed forward. And then came the twist. Inside the main chamber, seated behind a glowing console, was a woman Maya instantly recognized. Colonel Vera Halden. Decorated, revered, once Maya's mentor. You? Maya whispered. Halden turned slowly. I warned them about you. Told them you'd never stop. You ran those experiments, Maya said, voice trembling. You let them do it to our own. Halden stood. We did what we had to do. We were losing the future. I made sure we had one. Maya's hands clenched into fists. You built monsters. Halden's eyes flared. No, I built survivors. Suddenly more footsteps. Armed soldiers poured in from the flanks. Trapped. Harper raised her weapon. Maya! But Maya's eyes never left Halden. You forgot one thing, she said. Halden raised an eyebrow. What? Maya smiled coldly. We didn't come here alone. Suddenly the lights flickered. The room darkened. Then, through the speaker, a calm voice echoed. This is General Talbot. Operation Widow's Net has been intercepted. Airstrikes inbound in 60 seconds. All unauthorized personnel evacuate immediately. Halden's face froze. You sent the coordinates, she whispered.
Maya nodded. Before we even left DC, sirens blared, panic exploded, soldiers shouted, scattering. And Maya stepped forward. For the ones you buried, for the ones you erased. She hit the detonator strapped to her chest rig. Time to level the system. The countdown began. The blast wave rolled through the Alaskan mountain like thunder trapped beneath the earth. Inside the crumbling facility, Maya's ears rang. She gasped for breath, coughing smoke, half buried under steel debris. The world above shook again as the structure began to implode, and the ceiling cracked open with violent tremors. Maya! Harper's voice echoed faintly, strained through the roar. Maya blinked hard and pushed off a slab of concrete. Her vest had absorbed most of the impact, but her shoulder throbbed, likely dislocated. She grabbed a broken beam for leverage and hoisted herself to her feet. In the far corner of the collapsing control room, Holden was slumped over, pinned beneath a column, blood trailing from her mouth. You don't understand, she rasped. Maya limped closer, her face grim. No, I understand too well, she said. You built a world where obedience mattered more than humanity. Holden coughed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. They'll come for you. You're not finished. Maya leaned in. No, but you are. Outside, Harper and Briggs had made it to the snowline where Jace was signaling the evac drone. The wind howled. Smoke rose from the ground behind them, and snowflakes turned grey as ash settled across the trees. Maya stumbled out of the tunnel just as the last drone descended, low and silent. She fell to her knees. Jace caught her before she hit the ice. You good? He asked. She nodded. We did it. The servers, the data cores. All gone. Briggs secured the drive to his chest. This is going to change everything. Maya looked toward the burning ridge. Only if we tell it right. As the drone lifted off, they flew in silence. Below, the site that had fueled a hidden war on American soil smoldered under layers of frost and justice. But Maya knew this wasn't the end. This was a beginning. 2 weeks later, the footage aired. Clips from hidden labs, the names of real soldiers erased from records, voice recordings of Holden, and live testimony from Jason Harper. Congressional hearings launched within hours. Families began coming forward, mothers who lost sons to training accidents, veterans institutionalized without cause. The story gripped the nation. Maya didn't hide. She walked into the Capitol in full uniform, shoulder heeled, eyes sharp, no apologies. In her testimony, she stood before cameras and lawmakers. For too long, we've believed silence equals safety. That if we keep our heads down, follow orders, we're serving something greater. But I've learned, true service means speaking up. It means confronting the rot, even if it's wearing stars. A pause. Then, thunderous applause. Later, as Maya stepped outside into the early spring sun, a young black girl stood waiting with her father. The girl held a sketch pad with Maya's picture, drawn in crayon, labeled My Hero. The girl looked up. Are you the lady from the news? Maya knelt. Yeah, sweetheart. I am. You were brave, the girl whispered. Maya smiled, a tear threatening to fall. So are you. Promise me you'll always speak the truth, no matter who tries to shut you up. The girl nodded fiercely, and with that, Maya rose and walked into the crowd. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was a symbol, not of revenge, but of reclamation. Of standing in the storm and refusing to be moved. Of rewriting the rules that were written to silence people like her. Because justice doesn't start in courtrooms. It starts in moments, when someone says, no more. And if this story moved you, if you believe stories like Maya's matter, then don't just watch. Stand with us. Subscribe. Share. Be the echo that carries her voice further than they ever meant it to go. This story was inspired by real struggles, real cover-ups, and real warriors in uniform who fight not just enemies abroad, but systems at home. The truth has power. Help us tell it, and never let them forget.